Hi there, it's Daphne from Blue Quarry, and today I'm going to share with you my process for making a journal cover I made for my bucket journal using leftover wallpaper and fabric. Even though the actual segments of paper and fabric I used hadn't been used before, they were just leftover bits from other projects that would otherwise have been headed to the landfill, so I think this counts as a repurposed materials project. I start off by cutting my materials about 2 to 3 inches larger than my finished flattened open journal cover. I'll provide a link to the pattern I used in the description box below. If you don't happen to have any leftover wallpaper laying around the house, fear not. There are a lot of alternative materials that you can substitute here. A heavyweight fabric or vinyl, or maybe even some craft foam or felt. No matter what you decide to use, the pattern and the basic process would be the same, so here it is. My fabric was all wrinkled, so I ironed it to ensure a nice, smooth bond with the paper. Next, I soak my wallpaper to activate the paste. This is a necessary step, but only if you're using pre-pasted wallpaper. Drain the excess water off, then fold the edges over like this to book the paper like you normally would, and set it aside for about 5 to 10 minutes. Next, I laid my fabric on a sheet of freezer paper and spread matte medium across the inside surface of the fabric, brushing in both directions to make sure it was completely covered. Then I opened the wallpaper and placed it on top, gently pressing it flat, first with my hands and then by rolling it with a brayer. Be careful to wipe your brayer as you go and use a light touch so you don't squeeze out all the adhesive. Once it's completely flat, leave it alone until it's dry. I left mine overnight. Now it's time to cut out your paper to match your pattern. I use a rotary cutter and scissors, but scissors is really all you need. My cover is sized to fit the largest booklet, the section I use for my Breathe journal, which is made up of 9x12 drawing paper folded in half. If you're using 8.5 by 11 paper, you could go with a slightly smaller version. Also, since this was the first time I was making this, I wasn't sure how big to make the pocket, so I end up trimming it down later. I've been using my journal cover for over a year, and there are a few things I really like about it. First, it's extremely durable. I abuse my journals, and I carried this one around with me everywhere. It's been in and out of my bags, in my glove box, and on several occasions on the floor of my car. The wallpaper cover is really tough, and it can be cleaned with a damp cloth. I also like that the extra flaps help keep everything protected and nicely contained. The negatives are the size and the weight and the stiffness of the cover. Everything's a trade-off, so the extra pocket and the flap on the front and sizing it for a 9x12 paper meant a bulkier result. But I'll provide the actual finished dimensions for both options in the pattern download. My bucket journal has 3 sections, so I will be adding 3 loops of elastic to hold them in place. There are a lot of ways to do this. The most typical is to punch holes near the top and bottom of the spine and feed the elastic through the holes before tying them off. For this cover, I decided I didn't want any of my elastic showing on the outside of the journal except for the one I was using for the closure. I did this using a plastic tube. This tube was another leftover I found in my closet. It was left over from a party I hosted a long time ago, and it's meant to be used as a support for holding balloons. You could probably use an extra long straw, or even just a strip of cardboard in place of this. This is really just to provide a bit of stiffness so the elastic doesn't bow the soft cover. use a wire to hold my tube. Then I glue it in place using a strip of fabric and the same matte medium and allow that to dry. Once it's dry, I measure to the center of the tube and I place a mark on either side. I punch 2 holes for the elastic that I'll use as a closure. I use a punch and a mallet, but you can even just use an awl for this. I feed the elastic out through one hole and back in through the other. I tie it off loosely, check the fit, then tie it securely and trim the ends. Next, I use a piece of craft wire to help fish the elastic through the tube. I fold the elastic into thirds, then tie a slip knot on one end and bend the wire around this and the fold to secure the elastic and pull it through. Once through, I snip the ends, and then I tie each of the pieces of elastic using a simple square knot. Right over left, then left over right, then pull it tight, and trim the ends. I put a dab of medium on each knot and then hit it with my heat gun to speed up the drying time. A few final trims to round the corners and my journal cover is complete. In my next video, I'll demonstrate how to make a simplified travel size version of a bucket journal cover using a single piece of leather. So if you think you'd prefer a minimalist version of this, be sure to check that out. If you want to learn more about the bucket journal concept, check out the video linked at the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell to be notified when my new videos are released. Thanks for watching.